monitor output. Oh, hey, now I am actually getting something on my headphones. That's good. However, now it's actually also, it's very difficult to actually say this while hearing myself. Are we getting any? Okay, so you can hear me. That's good. Also, thank you, Black Maned Lion. Now I just gotta get it so that I'm actually not hearing it myself, because talking while you're hearing yourself is, with a slight delay, it's very irritating. So, apologies for the technical difficulties. We'll get into Paragon in just a moment. So, monitor only, I am hearing myself, which is great, except it's not. So, just quickly going to open Twitch and see for myself. Yeah, okay, I am getting audio, or rather you're getting audio, however I'm still having trouble with hearing myself now. Yeah, that's probably for the best. Well, I won't be able to hear anything, but it should be good. See, camera, desktop audio. Okay, now we should be in business. I hope we're there. Dolphin audio output, let's turn that on for just to be sure. Well, as long as you're hearing me, should be good. So I'll do one final check as well. Oh yeah, I'm hearing myself, good. Now let's not create a big feedback loop that I had that issue already. Hey, and also Izzy Boy, glad to see you here as well. Hope it's working, treating you well. But I think we are ready to get into some Paragon showcases. Nice, it's actually working. I actually worked quite hard on those transitions, so I'm glad we've got that figured out. So, I don't know, I know Izzy has already been quite adventurous with Paragon. He's been helping Dunal with the Exalted. However, Black Maned Lion, have you, by any chance, also dabbled in Paragon a little bit, maybe for 3DS? Or just here to see how all the tech issues go for someone who's been picking up streaming since quite a while ago. Let's see, base Radiant Dawn is actually a little bit better to take. And for anyone who's watching this back on YouTube, there are a few differences between my Paragon and your Paragon, probably. If you're looking into that, I'll go by those as we get to them. However, most of the things that I have are going to be in the end product that Thane has as well. He's currently, however, working on Astra, and Astra, as we all know, is the Engage editor. I had to think of it, was it Three Houses or Engage, but I think it's the Engage one. And then we have a Yeah, butchering your favorite game, that's how I started out as well, so there's no harm in trying. I mean, making a small mod is fine as well. We'll get into some Daybreak action as well today. Just a bit of skill coding. I've got some fancy ideas. I don't know if I can pull those up. Let's see. Script skill ideas GBA. You can't see them on screen. However, I did find a little more that I was able to use for skills. There's actually some fun things I was planning on doing with Prologue. Those are money altering skills, or some skills that change based on how many numbers are left on the map. Of course, I think Lagoose still needs some more transform-based skills, and then we have some rescue and drop-off skills that I might want to work on. Lastly, maybe some stuff that does things when biorhythm is high or low, and then we also have something like auto-equipping a weapon, kind of like how Leaf does it, but that's something that I don't know how to implement just yet. Also, Rutger, nice to see you here, and Kirk of Hazard, nice to see you here over on Twitch as well. Oh, yeah, I am getting the YouTube chat. I hope it's connecting. Also, it's just Twitch terms of services for every other screen. I can't have YouTube chat on the screen if I'm multi-streaming. But I wanted to get this on YouTube as well, since it will be available as a VOD, so that seems like a useful thing to do. Just the multi-stream makes it a little bit easier for me. Nice, can't even spell right. Testing on YouTube should be coming through as well, although not on the screen. However, getting into Paragon, usually when you open up Paragon, you've got quite a few things on the menu. Sadly, it doesn't actually make the buttons any bigger. That's a shame. But I can do that somewhere else. Okay. Thanks for that, Rutger. I've actually had my last day of work as well, believe it or not. I haven't been scheduled anymore. Okay, getting into Paragon. When we close it, you're faced with, just most people will probably know this, but you're faced with getting a new document. I've got Daybreak, Base, Radiant Dawn, Reverse Chapters, which is a project I was working on for, or am working on in my spare time, but it's not really progressing as I would like it to. Takumi, which everybody may have seen in the upcoming, or in the last day or two, came out a few days ago, which I did with Akira. It was actually quite fun getting Takumi into the game. And then the escape room, which is going to be something that you'll get to know, but I'm working on that and expect a video on that in, well, not the near future. I've got a lot of footage to work through. If you want to open a new project, you can enter a name, and of course we're working with English and then FE10. I actually don't know all that much about FE13, 14, and 15. I haven't dabbled in the 3DS games. However, I do know from Thane that there's a lot more stuff that you can do, and the map editor is a lot better. Hey Nilsar, how's it going? Thank you for the follow as well. Hope you're all doing well. I don't know if you jumped in just now, but just going through Paragon's setup for a new document, and from here on out you can also see what opens up, like the extracted ROM FS directory. This is just where you have your entire ISO when you've extracted it, and then the output directory, I just call it extracted game or mod that you're making output, because then you have an easy way of accessing all the files that you've modified, and you can just copy and paste those over into your extracted ISO. However, I've got some already, and here I've got the main menu. There's quite a few more options. All these battle options, those are added through different means. They are not usually there with Daybreak, or rather with Paragon, when you just start it up. However, somewhere in my Discord, Thane has left the instructions for how to implement them as well. I don't remember them, I can't recall them right now. However, I do hope that I can get those in, or rather that I can get the instructions back at some point, and I'll showcase it on stream as well. I'm going through this list first, and then we'll go a bit more in depth in all of these, because these are most of the big ones. The affinity bonuses, I hope this is actually showing on screen. It is not. Should be. Or I'll just have to add a media source real quick. Media source. Affinity bonuses. So apparently I didn't add all of them. So just bear with me. Display capture, that was the one. Affinity bonuses. Also not what I wanted. Window capture. I know how OBS works. Hey, affinity bonuses are already in use. Why aren't you showing in that case? Paragon Windows folder. Is any other screen then showcasing? Okay, apparently we're starting with chapters because the affinity bonuses window doesn't want to show. That's okay. Chapters, I don't really do much with these except for the reverse chapters projects that I'm working on, which is starting the game all the way at endgame rebirth with Micaiah and Soth, and then going backwards so you'd actually progress through the game with the normal units, but you'd progress through the maps in a reverse order. Instead of reverse recruitment, you'd actually be playing reverse chapter. However, if we go to the maps, we start off with the debug map. Probably some people familiar with that. If anyone knows what this one is, it's mostly the map where you can see a lot of enemies that actually don't show on the map anymore, or rather when you can't select them, you can't interact with them. And then you've got the Prologue, Maiden of Miracles, the Dispossessed. These are just the normal chapters. These are all designated with a map ID, and if we look, we also have the dummy chapters in between. Those also have an ID, so it's very important to keep track of which ID is on which map. And for some reason it goes from 54 to 55 and then to 80 for a few of the last few tutorial chapters. So if I would want to change this, I could take the map ID 54, and for that reverse chapter idea, I could press 1 and then set it to 54 on the Prologue. However, the issue with that is that you'd still get some script editing files that would look for a different dispos map, which is like the battle map, and you wouldn't actually be able to see the map or get any of the scripts working. So the entire project that I've got is going through all the script files, changing the map, and then changing the dispos files as well. Once again, by the way, if anyone wants to have a GBA stream avatar as well, those are available by doing !GBA or !avatar, and then you can select one. Or just on Twitch, you can get one on the, what's it called? The About Me page. There's a drop-down menu where you can select one for yourself as well. So, hope to see more of you just scurrying around on the foreground. And then we have, if we go to the Prologue, we have the chapter background music shop file, which is not entirely correct. This is the script file, and it's the same as here. This is CO101. This just goes through the same motion. However, it is a little bit tricky because this means that the Prologue is 0101 and chapter 1 is 0102. Yeah, Avatar. That's the one you need. And those are all the names that you can choose for now. So let's see if I can move this out of the way just ever so slightly. There we go. Also, yes, I am promoted. This is one of the privileges and liberties I've taken for myself. Then if we go a little bit further, we have the name. You don't ever need to change this. I do believe this is what showcases the name at the start of the map, like the gray screen with Laurent's medallion where the chapter name starts, and this is the title that shows. However, I don't know if it actually shows through the text here. This can also just be placeholder text. I haven't looked into that much. This one's very important. The bmap, those are where which we can see in the dispos files, and here you have all kinds of bmaps. These are for your C, H, and N, which we'll get to in just a little bit. But if you want to have a map actually show on screen, this is the one that connects it. Same with the script files. The script files eventually say a lot about what happens on the battle map, so if these aren't in sync, you don't get anything working. There's a few unknown strings. We can take a quick look, but they're pretty much always empty, so we don't know what they currently do. If at some point any of you do actually find out what these do, if you're tinkering around yourself, you might actually want to notify Thane, because some of these unknowns are known by now, however these are not. If we open this up a little bit, you can see hopefully a little bit more here. We've got the objective texts. These are quite easy to find. There's a file called e.common, and that's a file where all the text that's available within the entire game, like that's always readily available. This one, for example, I believe is route, because item 1 is for normal mode, or easy mode, item 2 is for normal mode, and then item 3 is for hard mode. So if you want to change difficulties, you can see this in Maiden of Miracles, chapter 1, which is, I believe, a defeat boss chapter on normal mode. So this will probably be defeat boss. However, here you can see that it's escape within 10 turns. And then you've got escape within 10 turns as well. And if we go down a little bit, you can see what the lose conditions are. So here it would be Micaiah dies, or anyone dies probably, and then the other condition is 10 turns plus. So far so good. We've got the map ID already. This unknown, I don't know, it might be related to the map affinity, which we see here. However, I'm not sure. The BXP group, this is 1, 2, 3, or 5, I believe. BXP group 1 is Micaiah's army. BXP group 2 is Alincia, or the part 2 army. That's number 1. Number 2 is Grill army. And then number 4 is, I believe, everything pulled together. The same happens for Convoy group. So if we see this, let's see, this is part 1, so it's all Convoy group 000. Oh, I'm actually misspeaking. Convoy group 0, I believe, is that there is no convoy. Yeah, you're definitely right. The 10-turn escape is where anyone dies. You can also throw this, you can throw it into a translation program like DeepM or DeepL, I don't recall what it's called exactly, and you'd probably get everyone dies as a result. If we go to part 2, you can see that this changes to BXP group 1, and since we're on Drifting Clouds, if you would lose an item here, you don't have a convoy, so the convoy group is still 0. In A Gathering Hope, we do have a convoy group, so we do have Convoy 1 for Micaiah's army, and then Convoy 2 is for Elincia's army, and BXP group 1, and after that the Great Advance you go to 2 and 3. So if you want to change this at any time, if you want to change how a map plays, for example in Daybreak I'm planning on having 3-10 to be a Elincia map. You don't control the Grail Mercenaries, you actually control her army. Then this would change around and you'd have to shuffle them so they would fit Tides of Intrigue, for example. So you'd get BXP group 1 and the Convert group would be 2, so that items don't go to the wrong people. Then there's the mounted move modifier. I hate this, and I'm glad it's a really easy fix. You can just change this to 0 if you want. This is on all the indoor maps. The indoor maps, for those who don't know, have a mounted penalty of -2. You could also set this to like -7 if you want to really kick horses in the shin a little bit more, but I don't see why this would be necessary. usually I just get rid of it because horses don't really have that many rights in Radiant Dawn anyway, so it's best to give them slightly more. Unknown 1, 1, 2. I have no idea what these all do. These values, if anyone knows at some point, I'd love to know what they do, but for now, yeah, definitely dismounting is, in my opinion, a better concept. Not always executed perfectly. I mean, for 3 houses, you don't really have dismount as a problem in any way. It's only a bonus. However, I don't really like the -1 or -2 movement penalty they get. Map affinity is pretty self-explanatory. Fire, wind, light. I don't think you can give multiple of these, and it's just the map affinity that gives the +5 avoid and hit bonus to whoever has the same affinity. The RID, I have no idea. I can throw this into a translation just really quickly. I've done this before, I believe, but I honestly can't remember. Let's see. Deep L was the translation site. It's probably a background of some sorts. I presume this would be the background you see while you're in the base, because the text that it said is base inside the Crimean royal castle, which in 3-9 would fit because you're using the Crimean royal knights. So Laguz and Bjork, I'll just quickly plug this one in as well. And that is indeed ragtag base rag tents knights inside. So yes, this RID is actually the background for the base, which shifts every single time. Which has a fun fact. I don't know if you've noticed this. However, in Revelations, let's see, I can't click. I'm curious as to what it will say, but you can actually see a portrait of Oliver. Yeah, base inside Duke Tana's mansion. This is actually there's a portrait there. I might be able to get it. No, I lost the files. But there's a portrait and there's a few pictures of it as well in the game, where there's some developers Easter eggs. However, the base actually has a portrait of him, and it's him at a river, very skinny, very beautiful, probably when he was like 30 years younger. He still had hair. It's really cool that they actually put this in, and I'm still curious if it was at that point an actual existing painting in our world that they modified, or if it's like entirely customly created. So yeah, now you know. The biggest problem with move penalty is that Fiona is just unusable. That is definitely true. She's worse than Iran at that point. I mean, if we pull up the base stats, I can't do that in chat sadly, but her bases are incredibly poor. There is actually I saw it yesterday in the Tellius era Discord from the Reddit page, or from r/Fire Emblem. They were asking, is she auto-leveled incorrectly? Was she supposed to be auto-leveled to level 9? And no, it's actually not that. She just has really poor class bases. I mean, she should have been auto-leveled, but she isn't. Terrain name, it's still a question mark by Thane. However, I think he's correct. This is just the terrain name that you see on the map. The weather, also pretty self-explanatory. I don't know what the second RID is, so I'm also going to plug that in really quickly. Hello, I said copy-paste. Ajit Noon in front of the door. That's not really helpful. Maybe it's the starting background that you get. It's definitely related to a background, but I wouldn't be able to tell you what it is exactly. And then the commander, pretty much self-explanatory. We've got Ike, and then a fresh strings of unknowns. She's basically worse than Iran at this point. Her saving grace as a unit that she was mounted. Yeah, she loses in the indoor maps, but like even in the outdoor maps, she's being bullied. The swamp terrain, actually, she can't even go to the 1-8 swamp terrain, and in 3.6 she can't even move off the island. So it's not just that Fiona, she's hampered on every map she's in, not just the indoor ones. It's a pain that she's hampered on that one as well, but that's why I removed the penalty. And I don't think dismounting for Fiona actually would do anything. Like, she'd still be horrible. So yeah, Fiona, she needs some buffs in whatever mod people make. She always is supposed to get some buffs. She's absolutely horrible. Fire as well, for that matter. Speaking of Swamp, also Kaido Rel Jr., thank you for the follow, and Crimson Iron. I also almost said Crimsoneron. Crimson Iron. Yes, I actually know how to make her deployable. I've pretty much got the chapters covered. Just a few more things. If you want to add chapters, which Daybreak is aiming to do, you can add items here, and it's usually best to copy them, because you can start off with, what's it called? You can start off with base information that you want to base the map you've got on, and then move from there. So let's say I would want to change or add a map in between some of the endgame maps, people fighting outside. Then I would probably copy this map, and I would have to script it so that it would go from, let's say, map 2 to map 6, that's custom, and then back to map 3. For now, I'll delete it because I don't need it. So, I'll get to the swamp and deployment in just a moment. And yeah, I disagree that Fiona would be usable if she would have movement. Because even if she has movement, she can ferry other units around, but it doesn't actually make her any better. Like, it makes her utility better, but it doesn't improve her as a combat unit, so she doesn't really get experience anyways. Although, and I'd say Nolan is serviceable and hard. However, if we go to Crimson Iron's request, we open the Dispos maps. And we'll go to, let's see, you were talking about 1-8, so that would be, in this case, because we have to take into account that the prologue is chapter 101, that would be 1009. And then 1-9 is 1010, and endgame is 111. We've got 3 maps, or rather 3 files to work with. We've got a Dispos C, a Dispos H, and a Dispos N. N is for normal, hard, the H is for hard and maniac mode, and the C is for any cutscenes that happen beforehand. So people often think that the C is for, I don't know, easy clear or something like that, but it's actually just the cutscene map that happens beforehand. For example, it might also be afterward, by the way. I haven't gone into these C files all that much, but for example, the moment that Micaiah goes back and she's at the cliff and she's waving to all the soldiers with Nyla because she rescued the villagers, that might be in here. And then the actual battle maps are in H and C. So we'll open this one. And for Crimson Iron, I don't know if you've seen these before. However, the Micaiah, Iran, Soph, Nolan, Zihark, and Laura, these are like some placeholder ones. And then you've got a Tormod crew, a Hatari crew, Hatari 2. This is probably... There's probably a reason like it's Raphael Nyla, and then Bolug is in a separate one, and Teki is the enemy group, and then you've got all kinds of reinforcements, and then here are the prisoners in the Horiol. These are all the units you have, and you can add units here. These would be... Oh, it's not shown on stream. Why is the Dispos not... Probably needs a separate window. That's my bad. I really thought I got them all. Paragon Dispos. Add window. Window title, not so much. Okay, there we go. Now it should be visible. Yeah, it's showing now. Good. Also, thank you, your resident liability. I thought it was Leobility, or is that just a screen name? But thank you for the follow. Hope you're enjoying it so far. As was saying, we have the Mikata group, that's Makaya, and these are pretty much all placeholders because your units level in between. Same as for Tormod, that's Tormod, Morim, and Vika. Hatari has Raphael and Nyla, and then Hatari 2 for some reason has Volug separate. I don't know why that is. Tech are your enemies, and then here you have reinforcements, prisoners, and more reinforcements. Most important is, of course, if you want to deploy extra units, you can add some here. If you want to deploy them without using the script files, then that is possible. You could add them to any non-player file, because player files are, as I said, placeholders. However, the enemies are loaded in. So if I would want to load in a unit, I'll just copy a bandit for now. I'll copy this to item. And then there's a few things you have to look out for. First off is this unknown number. These are the unit order. And as you can see, this is 070109. And then here you also have a bit flag. These actually change. And here you can see this one changes 8F9091. And because we copied this one, we have to change this one into 92. Then, if we want to actually have someone show up on the map, let's say we want Zelgius to arrive, and we want him to be a marshal, and I believe it's this one. That would all be fine. We would have to adjust his starting position, because currently he would spawn in on the same tile as that bandit that we copied. And then the most important part is you change the unit color to 00, which is player control. Liability is the original. Change it to... Fair enough, fair enough. You were always very vocal about your fandom, your appreciation of Leo, which I can only agree with. Leo is great. Still, on hard mode, I think he's still the best of the Radiant Dawn units. Or rather, the Dawn Brigade units, so to speak. So, to Crimson Iron, to get back to this, if you want to add a unit on the map as a player unit, this is how you would be able to put them in as a unit, because they would spawn in together with the enemies. If you want to have them show up later, you could do it through a reinforcement, but be sure to have a reinforcement that only spawns one, or you spawn them in like multiple times. Other than that, if it's a Lagouche, you can adjust their starting transform, you can adjust where they spawn. This is mostly something that you'd have to look at through just the map, because these don't line up with the actual borders of the map. This is not a one-to-one comparison. It is 33 tiles, but the actual X and Y's 0 coordinates are outside of the battle map boundaries. So it's best off to just reference a unit like the boss or where Makaya starts to see like what tile does that relate to, and then where do I want my unit to spawn. You can adjust their starting level, as I said, their unit color for making them playable. However, these, if it's playable, are the AI, they won't actually matter. And I'll get to this once we go to a little bit more map design, but I need Dalton for that. There is actually a different way, and that is through scripting. Let's see, I'll quickly grab one. It should show up, I hope. It is not. Give me a second. Virtual Studio. Properties. There we have it. Okay. You did something different, but it didn't completely work. You forced her deployment by adding her in the Mikata section. yeah, the Mikata section, as I said, usually placeholders. That doesn't really work all that well most of the time. However, there is also a different way, but that's going into scripting, and you've probably not got the resources for that yet, but I can show you how it works eventually. In scripting, there is a command, and that is here. Unit never sally by PID Tornado. This means that Tornado is not deployable this map. And there are also some other commands. Let's see, sally by PID, sally by PID. Here we go. Unit forced sally by PID. So here you can see these units are all currently forced on the map. They're forced deployed, and they're also forced to not be able to be moved around on the preparation screen. Let's see, her name is still red, and if I remove her, I can't add her again. Yeah, this is like the first option I showed you. I don't know how that works with, for example, getting units to the next map. However, here you would be able to change it so that a unit is not actually undeployable. So if I would remove these two, no, I'm a little bit too high. If I would remove these two, and I don't know if I can actually make this bigger, I zoom in. I hope it's a little bit visible for you. Should be. I use Visual Studio Code. This is the Exalt script editor, and I wish I would be able to tell you how I installed it, but it's been a while and I don't remember what I did exactly. It is made by Thane, and there are probably instructions in the Discord if you search for type. That should be what you'd be looking for. It's an extension for Visual Studio Code, I know that much. I've got this one. Barely not visible, like the top it says Exalt FE scripting. Maybe you can just install this if you search it as an extension. I certainly hope so. And I'll get to, at some point I'll also get to actually showing you how to get all the files, but I don't know if I have the Windows set up for that right now. But yeah, if you want to actually be able to change the units on the map, then remove these, and maybe if you want Fiona to be able to be playable, because Fiona should be somewhere here, and her name internally is of course Frida. Oh, she's actually not. That's interesting. I know Tornado wasn't deployable, but I don't know how they got it so that she's not deployable. Very interesting. I actually didn't know that. And as it then goes through the script, it says a blackout, it loads the map, it says I am not able to load Tornado. Maybe this is, maybe that's Frida. Interesting. This is apparently never able to deploy buried treasure 1. Then it pulls data for the B maps. It transforms Raphael, Nyla, and Volu. It says all these units are unmovable on the preparation screen, and they are all force deployed, so you can't undeploy them. And then it loads in the prisoners and the enemies that start on the map. And then later on you get, let's see if we go back to the dispos file, -9. We should be able to see this. Yeah. So if we look for this, we should be able to find it, and here we go. Event turn 2. If normal, then load bmap 109Z06N and otherwise load 03H, which is a different unit depending, or a different set of units depending on difficulty. So there you go. That's the best way to actually get units on the map. And when you want to add a unit to a certain dispos, because that actually makes sure that they also join you in the maps that follow, it's something like I'll pull up a different example because I know where to get one. I'll pull up Iran because Iran joins on map 1-3. And we search for Brad. Unit get by PID Brad. So here he shows up. And if we talk to him with Laura, it's unit transfer to force by PID, and then it says transfer Brad to force 0, which is Micaiah's army, as we noted in the chapter discussion about in Paragon. So it's very important if you want to add a new unit on the map to also eventually get a unit transfer to force by PID. That's what actually makes a unit stick and you can deploy them the next map. It's very important, otherwise you'll use them for one map and after that they're still gone and you won't be able to use them. Any questions so far? Because I might have been going through this quite quickly. I wouldn't want to have any people have anything unclear for now. If not, I'll go back to Paragon and we can go to. Oh, don't worry, Crimson Iron. It's going to be on the pod. I'm going to leave this up on YouTube. It's going to be you'll be able to watch it back. Now let's go to. Let's say, does anyone want to have a character added to Radiant Dawn? It'll have to be or rather, does anyone want to have a playable character? Because here we have the character screen. Ooh, no. Character screen, and this one is quite sizable. We've got Ike, Izuka, Anna, your average list of all the units. From there on out, we go into Leville, and that's the last actual important unit. Then we've got some bandits. As you can see up in the top here, these are not just normal bandits. This is a thief, probably from one endgame. And this is a bandit probably from Prologue, and then you've got the rogue from 2-2. Another rogue, I don't know where that one would be from. And then you've got tigers and cats. These are actually 1-4. There are specific cats and tigers with different bases. After that, you've got Banyan soldiers, armors, etc., etc. More Banyan, but they are specifically called the Colbert line. These are for 3-10. Dayan, Crimea, and then also Crimean rebels. And then you've got the piss yellow enemies from part 4. Still not the best kind of implementation for blessing and armor, in my opinion. Also, thank you Almost Inhuman for the follow. Glad to see you here. Hope you're enjoying. Yes, the bandits did get flagged as goon. It's, there's a few funny names in here. You also have fire spirits, thunder spirits, and the wind spirits. They actually have skills that prevent them from being seen in battle, like with combat animations. Sadly, even if you remove these, you don't really get anything special to see. It's still broken. I'm trying to get those fixed. After that, we've got the Aura, we've got Ashra herself, Gallia, the Finessis, Kilvis, Goldoa, the Feral ones, and then you get all the bosses. and from there on out, the Morado Knights. Fiona has the best group of Cavaliers. A Pit 1 map 8 armor. I think this might be, I don't know, map 8 that would probably, maybe it's a base for Jur, the boss of 1-7, or it might be for 1-9 for what's called Alder, because he doesn't actually have a PID. He's not locked, he's just a face, and he's not actually locked to any model. Then you've got grandfather, boy, girl, etc, etc, and from here on out it's mostly tutorial stuff. And then lastly, you've got a few things. Dummies, these are all used in cutscenes. For example, let's see, Micaiah Raphael, this is a specific model that shows them hugging, like that's the animation that they get. And the last few are just for the glossary pages. So if we would actually want to change a few things about Ike, you've got the PID, which is the internal name, the MPID, which if I turn this, for example, into Izuka, it doesn't do anything because Izuka has an other internal name. If I change it to Frida, we get Fiona. Thank you for getting Fiona stuck into my head. And this is the MNPID, that is for the description. It's not listed here, but it says something like Ike of the Grill Mercenaries, yada yada, from the Mad King's War, blah 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 blah, hero of Crimea. The face ID, also, let's go to Frida, would change the face ID. I don't know if it does it automatically here. Yeah, changes it. The class, the Affinity, and Tellius is Earth, which I find a fun reference, like, ah yes, the land of Tellius. Tellius is the Earth, or the continent it happens on, so an Earth Affinity is a Tellius Affinity. And lastly, we have the weapon ranks. These are max weapon ranks, or base weapon ranks they start with, I believe, because the class has weapon ranks as well, but if this one is higher, I believe it's set to this one. And then starting level, this one's actually quite tricky. I made a mistake with this one quite a few times. If this one is, for example, level 1, and the starting level in the dispos file, which we saw when we were adding units, if that one is level 8, it would be set to the highest of the two. So if we change this one to 13 and the one in the dispos is 15, you'd be able to set the level to 15. It would take over the biggest one of the two. Finally, there's gender. So mostly these are for knowing what kind of unit you have and what kind of description you want it. Usually you want the Ike, and Ike all to be the same. If this would be Fiona, Leonardo, Ike, Micaiah, you'd get a very interesting unit with all kinds of weird descriptions and faces. Which is pretty much what the randomizer does. Then there's a few skills. The skill ID hero, so let's go back to Ike. The skill ID hero is just for a game over condition, and then EQA is for the weapon that they will be able to use. The weapon, we'll get to that in just a moment. The Etard has a attribute which is called EQA, and it means that whenever a unit has a weapon with that attribute, if they have the same skill, then they'll be able to wield it. This actually means you can get quite creative, because the Etard, it has EQA. However, if you would give a bow, let's say Shinon's Silencer or Rolf's bow, if you would have Rolf with the EQA attribute and give him the skill as well, it would mean that both Ike and Rolf would be able to use the Etard and Rolf's bow. However, of course, Rolf's bow is a bow and Ike can't use bows, so that's a way you can actually get multiple personal weapons without actually managing to have any overlap. So if you want to have some extra personal skills or personal weapons, this is a way to do it. In the meantime, if anyone hasn't done so already, if you want to have your own stream avatar, you can just throw this in. and you'll be able to see how many of these there are. Or you can use the attribute slider at the About section on Twitch. Like at the About page, you can add your own and it'll hop, skip, and jump just here in the corner. I hope that was clear enough. It's very, it's difficult to try and get my thoughts and speak at the same time. I'm not as easy as it looks. Even though I've done public speaking for a while. Next we'll go into the aids and assets. These are just the specific models that units use. So for example, Gatry has no tier 1 outfit because he's not tier 1. And then he has armor Gatry and armor 3 Gatry. We'll have, let's see, Ilyana, who has Mage F, Mage 2 Thunder, E is for Elace, and Mage 3 Elace, because that's her internal name. Yes, Crimson Iron, about outfits. What do you want to know? How does the game handle it if you want to give a character a class it doesn't have by default? You'll have to go into a little bit more detail. Tornado and Armor Lance. That actually works. That we can use Tornado as an example, or Gatry, because they're both Armor Knights. So if you would want to take Gatry and make him an Armor Knight instead of a Lance General, you would have to change his job ID, which is JID Glory Ducks. Change that to, I believe, Lance Knight or whatever the internal name is. We can look that up. We can go to classes, and then here we would have Armor Lance. So yeah, Lance Armor would be the job ID. You would copy that over, and you put Lance Armor here. Then you would take the Gatry armor and put the aid for his second tier in his first tier as well. This is you won't be able to get the small outfit. There is no design for Gatry being an armor knight, so you can't get the regular armor knight but blue unless you make it yourself, but that one doesn't exist yet. It might be possible to make them, don't get me wrong, but that's a little bit out of the scope that I'm able to showcase right now. So if you want to get Gatry as an armor knight and having tier 1 or Tornado in your case, change the class and then also change it so that this aid has his second tier armor for his first tier 1 as well. From there on out, you also have to go to the dispos file because those are still linked. Yeah, the problem is mostly inserting it into the game. Like adding in something new, it's probably possible. I haven't done it myself yet, but it would probably be possible to make like a white for Terranea or white armor knight outfit and add that in. The question is, how do you get it so that the models would be correct? Like I can extract everything with a specific tool, but then making sure that the game recognizes the new file and folder you put in. That's most of the issue. However, if you were going to do it this way and just have his second tier model on his first tier as well, you would also still have to go to the dispos map, because just like with starting level, what I just said, it takes the highest of the two, and if you call Gatry an armor knight here, a lance armor here, and the dispos file where he joins would still call him a lance general, he would still show up as a lance general. So it's very important to adjust them on both sides. Adjust it here, because if you leave it as a lance general here, he would still spawn in as one, and if you don't change it in the dispos file where he joins, which can, by the way, be a C file, it's literally the first instance where they show up. So for Tornado, that would be probably this one. Apparently I don't have that file anymore. We're going to a different one. So So if we were to change Gatry shows up on the first map. So here we have the Mikata file, and you would still have to change Gatry here from Lance General to Armor Lance. That's very important. So that's one way to also be able to insert tier 1 versions for other units. Lastly, we go to the right bottom section, which has bases. These are all pretty easy to understand. I assume you can just adjust the base stats of units. Luck is always done here. They don't actually have class luck. Luck is always done through here. The other ones are, their base stats are these plus their class bases. And then Constitution, Movement, Growths. These always take precedent over class growths, so Gatry has these growths in its entirety. It's not that these are his personal growths and then the other ones are, or these are lapped on top of the class growths. Flags, I actually don't know what these do. Biorhythm, it's just one of multiple biorhythm curves. Authority stars, very self-explanatory. And I know that this did something, and I actually talked to Dunal about it, and I can't remember what it was, so if I know at some point, I'll get back to you on that. Then, if you're a Lagoose, you can have some specific untransformed and transformed gauge reduction. So everyone who wants to give cats, like throw cats a bone, I guess, even though they're cats and not dogs. Let's see, where do we have one? We'll go for Liar, because everyone wants Liar to be buffed. You can see there's one Liar, and then there's another Liar who's used in the cutscene. This is probably her hooded Liar version. So here we see that they gain 15 per untransformed, and they gain 15 per turn, but they lose 5 and 4, so you could set this to like 3 and -2. You could even have it that they lose, let's say, -15 per turn, but whenever they get attacked, they gain, let's say, 8. So if they get into battle twice on enemy phase, they actually get back to 30 gauge, and that means then that they can stay indefinitely transformed, and you actually don't have any issue with losing 15 per turn. It just means that she has to stay in combat, because if she doesn't get into combat in 2 turns, then she detransforms. So you can do all kinds of cool things with this. Have her fight a lot, stay transformed just in a sort of blood frenzy, or you can have it setting Lagoose to 0, yeah, that works. So if this were 0, 0, 0, 0, nothing would happen, and you'd actually have a unit that would never gain gauge but never lose it. So if you use an Olivia Grass, then it goes to 15, then goes to 30, or you use a stone and they're transformed for the entire time. Which, in my opinion, is kind of a boring solution, but it's possible. I try to be creative with, like, a unit that I want to do a lot of enemy phasing. I would give them a very small per battle reduction, or even a gain, and then maybe a bit higher turn reduction, or a very steep turn reduction if you really want them to get into the thick of it. So there's all kinds of fun things you can do with that. I believe we've got everything covered for the class units by now. So we'll go to the next screen and let's see if those are actually available. Yeah, classes are still here. I knew I had a few preparations. Yeah, the very excessive nature of Lagoose, either useless or overpowered. Well, there's actually a few ways you can change these, and it might actually be a better idea to go to Daybreak for that. Because it actually has to do with classes. So if I were to take a cat, and I've made plenty of cats because I want all of them to be slightly unique, usually what happens is that the caps and bases for Lagoons are pretty much, the caps are halved. So here you have, let's see, yeah, cat 36 strength, 36 strength, and this one has 18. And the bases can be adjusted accordingly. But you can actually make it so that the caps are different per unit. You can make it so that the caps and the bases are slightly offset and give different bonuses. That way you can, for example, have a unit when they detransform have only -4 to all of their stats, because their bases are, in this case, would be 4 higher here, but because they would have their stats from detransforming, they would still then have a higher strength base in their untransformed class, giving them a bonus on top of their halved stats. What I've currently done, however, is work with items, and that screen is also visible. Great. Yeah, kick cats. Please don't kick the cats. These are untransformed weapons. You can do all kinds of cool stuff with them. However, if we have a claw, you can also make it so that, I hope I had any of these. Nope. Fine. I hadn't given out the bonus stats though. What you can do is have them give bonus stats, so even when they're untransformed, or rather I'm doing the wrong one now, because you don't want bonus stats when they're transformed. So here a kick, I could have this give, let's say, HP is not all that useful, but give 5 strength, 5 skill, 5 speed, and 5 defense when untransformed. This would mean that Volug, when he transforms, he loses this weapon, and he gains his normal fangs. But when he detransforms, he reverts, his stats are cut in half, but then he also gets +5 to all of these stats. That's still a way that you can create a little bit of variety and make Lagoos not that bad when they're untransformed. It might even give them some niche uses. I, for example, have an idea for a skill that when a Lagoos is untransformed, they still retain their transformed movement. It's just the way that what you said, like the excessive nature of Lagoos, they're either useless or overpowered, but this way you can actually make it so that the Lagoos are still useful even when they're untransformed. You might even want them untransformed. Also, I am going to drink a pure water, which is not actually water. Go. If you want to implement something like that, we actually have to go back to classes, because here we have the 2 cat transformations. This one is the untransformed one, Beast Tribe, and then we have Job ID Cat, which is the actual cat. Here you can see the item for my cat when it's transformed is item ID nil1, which is a rank. Yeah, they start with A, S, 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 which is an A rank weapon. That's the 1, and then nil 2 is S rank, nil 3 is SS rank, and they have this weapon when they're transformed. However, item ID Kick Cat, which is an item that I've made and given an icon and given its own attributes, is the weapon that they get when they're detransformed. So they actually switch weapons. There's some really cool stuff you can do with this, because you don't even need to have this cat transform back into it itself. If I were to add a few, actually no, I'm not going to add a few, I'm going to show this slightly differently. Delete, 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 delete. Let's say, for example, I am a cat. I transform, or I'm a Beast Tribe cat, and I transform into a cat. Then I could say that the transform I want to, when I detransform, would be cat T. This means that when this cat, untransformed cat human transforms, he transforms into Job ID cat. However, when this one detransforms, it transforms into Beast Tribe tiger. So in this case, you'd actually change from a cat into a tiger. You could then say that when this beast tribe tiger transforms, he transforms into a tiger, and then say that when a tiger detransforms, it detransforms into beast tribe cat. This means you can create certain loops. It's quite cool. For example, Exalted has this with Keisha. Keisha has 3 stances, and this is how it works. He's first in his speed stance, I believe, and then when he transforms, he transforms into a speedy tiger. From that speedy tiger, he transforms back, but then he doesn't go back to his original class, he transforms back into a same looking class, but that actually has the heavy attributes. And then from heavy, he transforms into a heavy tiger. From the heavy tiger, he transforms into a, what's it called? I believe magic Lagoos. They all look the same, but they're technically different classes with different weapons, different caps, all kinds of stuff like that, different bonuses. And that way you can loop all kinds of units, or a unit, through all kinds of classes. This doesn't work for the Bjork, of course, it only works for the Lagoos, but you can create some really cool stuff with that. It's not that confusing if you showcase it to the player really well. Exalted does this by giving him a skill, and the skill does all the explanation. And when you see which one he also has like a specific icon next to his weapon, and it says like claw heavy or claw speed, claw whatever. So you can if you showcase and are clear with your communication to the player, it doesn't really feel all that confusing. It's of course some getting used to, but the unit always looks the same, but then the internal workings and the class skills and stuff like that, they change, and as long as those are communicated well, there shouldn't be a problem. An itchy note. Oh no, it's no problem if you ask a lot. Like it gives me something to read, it gives me something to bounce off of, so I'm really appreciating of the fact that you're asking these questions. It's also good for the vault, like people can actually see what's happening. So I'm very glad you're active, and like I like telling about this, so it's all good. I'll wait for your question first, and after that I'll go over the core stats and then the skill and class types. So Christ, we're already going for over an hour. Nice. Time actually flies. Also, while you're typing, the aid, this is just also the model for on the map. So in this case, if we have Ranal, these are all the same because they're just copied over from the original cat. Skill activation rates and types. Skill based all the time, activated, etc. I assume with activated you mean like flourish, gamble, and parity? Those kinds? Yeah. Well, easy answer for those, you don't. Like those, I don't know how. I really wish I knew how to implement extra menus, because then I'd actually be able to make stuff like reposition and shove and swap. Or shove exists, but you get the idea. The activation rates, they are changed in the main doll file, which is something that's probably not, like I need a little bit more preparation to talk about that. And skill based, do you mean, I presume that's whether it's adept, which is speed percent, or Colossus, which is skill percent divided by 2, like I assume, yeah. So activation rates, it's all main doll, and these are places I found in the main doll. I can talk about that at a later point. I don't really have that stuff ready right now, but that's a good topic of conversation for our next stream. And the skill based, like what stat it works off of, I haven't found that, but it's really close to where the activation rates are themselves. It's just a matter of finding the right node. I haven't done that yet because I'm working on the cooldown system, so there's no need for me. I just set the activation rates to 100, and then with scripting I remove or add them whenever it's necessary, but you could probably change those as well. But as said, topic for another stream. Probably going to work on getting some of those nodes ready for that. Other than those, yeah, there's things like glare. Let's see, glare, parity, gamble. I really wish I would be able to add some of those. There's a few, mercy and flourish, for example. It'd be great if you'd have mercy as this work as flourish, because if you could trigger mercy, then you could say I want mercy to happen when I select it, just like parity, and when I don't, I just regularly kill a unit. But that's not the world we live in, so sadly I can't help you with that. I'll get to... sorry, it'll be in a future video, don't worry. Going back to the classes, if we go here, we have the bases. For Lagoose, it's very important, of course, to double, or you could even triple caps, but it doesn't really matter. Like, the doubling system is still the same internally, but you could change all of these caps. Just make sure to keep them consistent. And then growths are for enemy units and promo gains. This is actually something that I tripped up on a little bit, because if we go to Archer, Archer has 0 promo gains, and then Sniper has promo gains. These are the promo gains for when you go into Sniper, if that makes sense. Let's see what else we have. Promo gains and then base weapon ranks. These are all pretty easy to understand. Unknown armor and armor weight, I believe those are indeed build and weight. If we go to cat again, here you can see that they both have 6 build. However, the weight of a transformed cat is more, which is why he weighs more. And the unknown armor might... I don't actually know what that one is for. Mount was probably something related to mounted units, but I also don't recall, because these are all not that common to change. And this is, yeah, the mount weight does matter. That's just how much does a horse weigh. Probably the mount, now that I think about it, probably means that number 2 probably means that a unit cannot be shoved, because mounted units are unshovable. But that's just a guess. Movement type, this is how they would interact with terrain, how much movement they have. Capacity, you'd normally expect this to be a little bit more, because if we go back to a non-Daybreak file, here you could see Trueblade has 60 capacity, Fog of War vision, Satori sign. This is actually also, let's say, skill ID adept. You can actually put these on the orc units, and now I believe, I haven't tested it extensively, but a Trueblade with a Satori sign would now be able to get the skill adept. And the last unknown is unknown. It says 21 a lot. It might be that these units... Oh, it might actually be that these units can change classes at 21. There's a really easy way to get that checked out. Druid has 0, which I believe does mean that if I change this to 21, they would be able to promote, and then you'd have to set their next class to, let's say, Jid Summoner, and now they would transform into, or well, here I'd just be able to change it to Summoner. And now they would be able to go from Druid and use Master Crown to promote into Summoner. That's the only thing I can think of when we have 21 as a value. If we go to skill and class types, these are some of the skills that units have. Higher means that it's a second tier class, tackle is shove, and mage is a skill ID, and then these are for effective damage. Now, SFXC, human, and mage aren't really all that used. However, if we go to a tiger, you can see that this one has a lies, which also means that they have the skill to transform. And then Lycanthrope is a skill for transformed Lagoose, and they also have SFXC Beast, which means they take effective damage from fire. yeah, the storage time is actually really cool. I've got it for a few units, like branded units. Probably going to get some use out of that. I'm not really sure what I want to do with it yet, but there's going to be some ideas. You can play around with it, especially if you get some custom skills. You can make some really cool things depending on what you all have cooked up, and then get some really cool skills to units that they normally not be able to get. Maybe a Bjork unit would be able to get, let's say, what's it called, Tear or Savage, any of those Lagoose mastery skills, for example, or maybe just Shriek or Howl. You can do some really cool stuff with that. I believe that pretty much covers the classes. Skills. Skills are very fun. This is the normal list, which for you it would look different, because I have a small modification to my to my Paragon, and as you can see, all of these have ID 000. Because I had to expand my skill and icon, or my skill icons and my item icons, I shuffled some things around internally, and now the ID is where the capacity used to be, and capacity is stored where the icon is, and the icon is stored somewhere else, which isn't red here. So if we look here, 105, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. The capacity for me is the icon, is the ID. So for you, you'd actually be able to see all the skills icons here. But for me, it's slightly different. I would have to go to my Daybreak file to actually make it look normal. Yeah, there we go. 004F icon, and the capacity is all correct. And as you can see, there are a lot of skills going to be in Daybreak. Many of these, for example, are just visual for the AI, so you can see what kind of changes are made in the AI. Point blank, Lucky 7, like some of these aren't actually implemented, but I'm working on some of them. Yes, the skill changing for values for like what kind of stat they proc off and what the activation rate, that's all done in main.dol. And then here we have just all the skills I've been working on. Stun, these are all like stun 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, because these are all just display things, and the actual stun skill is... Currently it has an icon for testing purposes, however this one would not have an icon, and the idea is after every combat or after a return, depending on like what kind of activation tempo you wanted to have, this one would count down. Let's say after every battle you'd go and have these at the start of map if it costs anything or if it is free, and then the script runs and it gives you stun 6, and then after a combat it goes to stun 5, and then it goes to stun 4, 3, 2, 1, and if it's at stun 0, it not only grants stun 0, but it also grants stun itself. However, this one will not have an item or an icon, and from there on out you suddenly have a hidden skill, which is the actual skill that does something, but that one has a 100% activation rate, so whenever you use that one, it pretty much activates, and it looks as if this one actually did the work. So these are all just a facade, and it's only granted when the actual skill is only granted when we're on stun 0, but it won't have an icon, so it will be hidden. Going back to skills, however, I don't know why I clicked it away. The skill ID, the name, and the ID are very important. Skills don't work if you put them in the wrong order. That's very important. So as you'll be able to see, this goes from 1, 2, 3, 4, and then normally 255, that'll be the cap for you, but for me it's quite a bit more. Then the effect, this is also shown, I think we have to go back to stun for that actually. Oh, double mic audio. I don't know where I'd be picking that up from. Will this be better? In any case, we were going to the effect ID, so I'll go to stun. Yeah, oh, good. Thank you, Goth Phoebe, and also thank you for the follow. Apparently I have double desktop audio. I don't know why, but should be good now. Thank you for mentioning that. Where was I? So we had stun. Yeah, stun. The effect ID, this one is for who you proc it or who procs it. So the ID, it happens on the unit. You can see this with Har when he does like with his dragon and he flies up. That's where the effect happens. However, if we go to disarm, yeah, you can see the effect ID release, which is on the opponent. Because when you hit them and the disarm effect doesn't happen on Brom himself, it happens on the person who is being hit. Then you have the descriptions. This one is for the skill when you look at it directly, and this one is next to when you have the skill hovered when you're in the base in the skill management section. That's why this one is a lot shorter. You also have to keep in mind that the /n, which is listed here, I'll add it just like this. The /n, that is an enter. And you have to abide by the limitations of the frame border. So this one is pretty small, and this one, because you have like the description, it's pretty wide, or like this. You have some longer sentences, and the one in the base is quite small cropped, so this one has enters every like 5 or 6 words. The unlock item, pretty self-explanatory. In this case, it's the disarm scroll. I have done something quite cool in, if I do say so myself, in Daybreak. I believe it's also in Exalted, but I'm not actually sure. You can actually give multiple scrolls, or one scroll, multiple skills to be picked from. For example, Mercy, Flourish, Gamble, and is there another one? Another command? Smite? Let's take Smite. It's not the one, but Flourish, Flourish, Gamble, Parity, Smite. Those 4. Those are all commands, and I made a command scroll, and all those 4 skills link to the same unlock item. That means when you're in the base, if you have one of those scrolls, you get the option to pick whichever skill you want. If you then pick, let's say, Smite, the other 3 still disappear. You can't pick them anymore because the scroll is still in use. And then if you remove the scroll again, it turns into a command scroll, whatever you want to call it, and you'll be able to pick any of those 4 skills again, which adds quite a bit of variety. So you can actually have multiple skills in one skill scroll. The capacity type means that it can either be locked or free or costed. Like those are, I believe, the 3 different versions. So there's a lock beside it, which means that you can't take it off, shove, etc. The free version, like innate skills, Zihark's Adept comes to mind. And then we also have the costed ones, which just cost X amount. In this case, it costs nothing. It might be free. And the unknown, I don't think I've figured out what that was yet, because it's pretty much never shown. Oh, was it? No, just my imagination. Then we do have a few learn conditions. For example, Beast Foe, Bird Foe. Most skills have themselves as a non-factor. This means that whenever you equip the beast foe skill, you cannot then equip another beast foe skill. Like if you checkmark this, if you would have 2 beast foe scrolls and you give one to Seahark, you'd be able to give the second one to Seahark, which doesn't really do anything. So if you leave away this checkmark, it means that you can't actually equip 2 of the same scroll. Then you also have Raisin, Leanne, and Raphael here. They can't learn Beast Foe. However, if you would want to, let's say, make it so that none of the allies group, which is untransformed and transformed Lagoose, would be able to learn it, then you would be able to do this, and they wouldn't be able to learn any of that. You can exclude certain units, you can exclude entire groups or include entire groups. Where do I have another scroll that does something similar? There's a big one. Wild Heart, yeah, that's a good one. So if you have Wild Heart, you cannot equip another Wild Heart. You cannot equip the Wild Heart that Voluk comes with. You cannot equip, what's it called, the shift, form shift skill. You must be of the allies SFXC, which means you're a Lagoose. You cannot be Raisin, you cannot be Leanne, you cannot be Raphael, and you also cannot have the skill Rhythm, which in this case would be Rhythm Shift. There's a lot more that I have to add to that. We have Wild Shift. In this case it's for feral ones. Form Shift, which actually opens with a Lagoose band from Path of Radiance. Stance Shift, this is what I, for example, this one is just copied from Exalted, like I'm not going to implement it like this, but here you can see that the description shows what you would go through. This is mostly like, because Duna and I from Exalted, like he works on Exalted, I work on Daybreak, we exchange notes a lot, so a lot of our things have overlap, or we just have resources that the other one has, and they're just not used. Yes, Exalted is another mod. It's actually in a further development stage than Daybreak. It is playable. You can probably find it if you go to Fire Emblem Universe. You should be able to find it. It's really cool what has been done so far, and Dunal, the creator of Exalted, and I have been working on this a lot together. Like, I gave him the expanded icons, for example. He was working in the meantime on the skill system, so a lot of my work on the cooldown system was from his first iteration, where he already had the entire system in place, and then I refined what he made into something that specifically fit Daybreak. And you'll be able to find a lot of the icons that I made in Exalted, for example. All kinds of stuff. Like, we try to share notes because, well, more people working on this means that more development is made. And there are a few skills that I'm going to add, such as Quick Shift. Immediately transforms this unit with full gauge at the start of each map without the usage of a Quickstone. For example, this is a Quickstone, is an Exalted thing, it doesn't exist in Daybreak, so this actually can go. But having a unit immediately shift at the start of map is a quality of life feature that so many people want for the Lagoose, so even though he made the skill and he coded it, it doesn't make sense for me not to include it because it's such a brain-dead idea to buff Lagoons. However, there's a few things that I made on top of that that really fit Daybreak specifically. For example, these would be the Him Shift, Valor Shift, and Morale Shift. Whenever Raphael, Leanne, or Raisin are gain 30 gauge, they automatically shift and do something like heal their allies, or they grant gauge, or they put biorhythm at a really good spot. So those are things that were based off of his first scripting document, and then I refined it to fit Daybreak specifically. let's see, I kind of forgot. Oh yeah, we had the unknown. Yeah, we pretty much had this. The toggle widget, I don't know why Thane put it there. And very important, if you press this delete button or this one, it deletes everything. If you want to add stuff specifically or just delete one skill, use these. And always make sure to either check or uncheck what you want to have. Getting dark, my forehead is getting less bright. Yeah, my forehead is less bright, which is good. I'm very glad that the sun is staying out a little bit longer though. The winter, I like it when there's like a big pack of snow, like 30-40 centimeters for like 3 weeks. And after that, it can go back to like the really yucky, icky, just gray mush that's on the side of the road. But what we had so far, it was teeny tiny bits, and then it just stayed gray for like 2 weeks. It wasn't really all that nice of a winter. A winter is good if it's dry. That's all I need. Like, the cold doesn't really matter as long as it's dry. Yes, I am based in Europe. That's all you get from me. We've got one more. I'll actually not even be able to make it. No, we have one more to go through from this core data section. Can't believe I actually managed to talk about 4 of these already. But also a very big one, which is the item section. And I believe we're back in the Daybreak file, which has a lot of stuff. Like the paralysis shiv and the locking shiv and the slumber shiv. These were all the weapons. Still didn't change this. That's better. These are all kinds of weapons that I'm adding, and you can do so many cool things with this. Lots of the weapons, especially when I had to remove durability, I was looking at the effects I could give to weapons, but they don't fit with durability as an existing system, because many of the weapons only do certain things because they get changed between turns. So for on player phase, you have a weapon that has plus 20 crit, but on enemy phase it has plus 20 dodge, for example. That would work by giving it the crit bonus on player phase, and then it swaps out your weapon, gives you a new one, and then that other weapon, the enemy phase version of the same weapon, has extra luck, and then has some skill reduction or hit reduction to make sure that the hit rates stay the same. Because luck, of course, influences hit as well as avoid. But you'd be able to make a really cool switching weapons, the stance weapon, for example. However, when you do that, you can't really account for all the uses of a weapon. So double attacks, single attacks, brave weapon attacks, they all take durability, hitting or missing. So it's best to just remove. If you want to create like more creative weapons, it's best to remove the durability, because it just doesn't work well with specific stance changing weapons. However, if we're going to keep it a little bit more simple, you have the icon, and usually this only goes up towards here, roughly. Yeah, these are your last icons. 255. However, with Daybreak, I managed to exceed that cap, so I've added a lot of new skill scrolls, new weapon icons, all kinds of fun stuff, which including all those fists and kicks, or some icons that you can use for skill descriptions, like enemy phase, player phase only, enemy phase only, etc. I'll also get into how you can get the extra skill icons as well later down in another stream, but that's also a main doll thing. Main doll has a lot of the big changes. Here it's pretty much the same, like the face ID for units. In this case it's the item ID. The M item ID is the weapon name, and then the MHI is the description. If you want to have a weapon type, you can give it a different weapon damage type. The most obvious one, Floret, change it either to light, or in this case I have an enemy version as well ready, but you could also change it to neutral. That would be White Dragon Breath, which doesn't have any weapon triangle advantage or disadvantage. If you would make it light, then you'd actually change it to be weak against anima and strong against dark. And then the weapon rank, this is just what it takes. An N means that it's a personal weapon. Effect IDs are applied either on the user, on the map, or on the enemy, I believe. I'm not entirely sure if that's correct. The unknowns here are practically always 1 and 4. No, not always. Resire always works. And you can add some really cool stuff, like the Flux Blade actually has the effect idea for when Volk activates his lethality. The sleep attribute from staves, will it work if you put them on other weapons? It will not. It will do... No, there's another attribute on the sleep staff. I don't have the sleep staff anymore, due to it being the free staff. It only has a cure silence effect, and I believe the free staff only has cure sleep. It also has, for the L3s, or L sleep, has seal steel, but it doesn't actually have an effect. The only one that has that were the venom weapons, and I don't have a venom weapon anymore, except the venom shivs, which do poison. That's literally the only one that applies it this way. The other ones are scripting knowledge, and my video on all those shivs, which kind of states the supply, that's all done by forcing a second battle afterwards. So if you want to have, let's say, a sleep sword, I believe one of those was in Thracia, then you would have to use the script that I've made. Which is, like, fine, I don't mind sharing my work at some point on that. But no, you won't be able to get in weapon attributes. The same thing applies for... Yeah, it can be applied by long-far weapons like bolting. The only thing is, poison currently, of course, isn't that strong. I kind of lost my train of thought there. It's fine. I might get back to that. We had the sword, weapon ranks, the effect IDs. These unknowns are still unknown. Might, hit, crit, range, use, and cost per use. Like, I wish that this was easier, but you have to do a little bit of multiplication. You can't just give the entire cost. You have to see, like, how many uses, how much cost per use, and then get the total price from there, the weight, the experience. And if you want to have it give a stat bonus flag like the Wind Edge, make sure to check this box. It can give plus magic, it can give minus defense, which just works with signed integers. This means that, or no, signed or unsigned? Unsigned, I believe. In any case, it means that 127 is your max, which is, by the way, also the max for caps on stats. And then as soon as you go to 128, this is minus 127. So 255 would be minus 1, 254 would be minus 2. Yeah, they're not plus 254. They're not plus 254 defense wind swords. You could give 127 defense, which would make Luna very valuable. Cat jumped off the table. And then we also have these unknowns. These are build, movement, and these two are as of yet unknown. There's a lot of attributes, as you've already seen, and the effectiveness as well. SFXC Knight, you can even turn this into SFXC Mage. which would then make it so that units with the mage attribute would take effective damage, which I've actually done for a few weapons. Negative stats effects on weapons. Do you mean that a weapon, when you hit someone, they get negative stats? Or do you mean that the weapon itself gives -2 strength? Yeah, for the holder, that's pretty much what the Wind Edge does. So here, because it gives 254 defense, that actually translates to -2 defense. So the same would go for 254 strength means actually -2 strength. Tempest Blade, for example, -252, that is -4. The Vekati, for example, gives 10 skill, but gives -2 strength. Excuse me. And the Etard currently gives 15 skill, 10 speed. Yes, it does work for Constitution and Move. So this one would give, you could change this to FF. This would give 255 move or -1. Or if you change it to 15, it would give 15 build. And this would give 15 movement. You can change all kinds of values. And I don't know what these two are. Maybe weight, but I haven't done extensive testing on those yet. I believe that's pretty much all that we need to talk about. One last thing, you can also do an advanced copy. For items, this I use mostly. The other ones not really. If I want to, for example, with skills maybe as well a little bit, if I want to transfer this icon, for example, of the Lance Reaver, I could transfer it to all of these by selecting the icon, or maybe I want to do this entire section and then it would transfer all the data onto these weapons. I don't want that right now, of course, but you could. It's really easy if you want to change most attributes of a weapon, or if you have a set of the same, like all these steel shields are in effect the same icon, but they do different things depending on which version you're wearing. It's my advanced copy. Advanced copy is staying. That's not supposed to happen. Pick that right now. Ooh, there we go. Yes, the disabled if multiple equipments are used, that is scripting, which was originally made by Dunal as well. Like that's, I had a system planned for shields as well, mainly because of the leather shields and the Aegis shields and etc. from Shadows of Valentia and Three Houses. And I was working on it, and then Dunal said like, hey, I already have this entire thing done, so I took that, modified it slightly for my own, but I haven't finished shields yet because I wanted to give an extra buff to the, what's it called, the Lancers, Halberdiers, and Soldier lines, and of course to Knights and Marshals, and etc. because they actually wear like a big shield, and it doesn't really make sense for them for other classes to get major buffs from them. Also, if you want to do this, just a public service announcement, don't click this, it will ruin your scripts because it doesn't actually compile correctly, so no need to use those. And then we'll go to portraits, which is really quick. They look absolutely horrible every single time. still don't know why my advanced copy is not leaving. Come on, shoo. Gone? It's not gone. Curious. Curious. Let's see. Characters. Okay. To deal with the advanced copy staying on the top right, I can apparently change it. I don't know why OBS is keeping that one around. But if we look at the face IDs, you can actually add a few of them. You've got small and then FIDL Nika is the second one. Then you just have the mouth, etc. Close, open, then you have eyes. And you have the small portrait for static screens. I don't really tend to mess around with these all that much. If I need to add a new character, I will have to eventually. It's in Nika CMS file, which is in this case for Nyla, and then you just have the portraits, left eye position, etc. Once you have these correct for any new portraits, you don't need to mess with these anymore. Unknown coordinates, I haven't done anything with those yet, and the large portrait crop position, I believe this is for either the outside or for the eyes and the mouth, but I'm not entirely sure. And lastly, what I'm probably going to do for today is the effects file. This one mostly is just for having fun. As I said with the Flux Blade, which is a sword that shows the lethality animation when it hits someone, you can grab a lot of these, the effect ID, and then combat Rex Flame is during combat, and then effect ID Rex Flame without the K is on map. And you can just go through these, Luna, for example, Vantage, Class Change, Magic, SP, BL1. This is one of the AoEs for Ashura, AoE Physical, and then there's the light version and a few other ones. Here you get normal spells. For example, the normal Fire Tome, I use that for AoE damage. You can see it in that video. You can just go through these, and if there's any cool effect ID that you think like, hey, I can actually use that for something else. Effect ID Player Face D, for example, doesn't really see any use. Or Title or Press Remocon, those aren't really all that useful. But there might be a few in there that you actually think like, hey, this is actually not that bad. I can use this for a skill or a weapon or an item. It's actually really cool that there is one that I was able to use. Demo Thunder, Demo L Thunder, and Demo Giga Thunder. Those are slightly different, a little bit more yellow than orange, and a little bit thinner. Mostly the same animation though. So I've got this entire list covered, and I think I might actually... I don't know if that actually was able to get picked up by the audio, by the microphone, but I have a cat that is very, very cute and he wants to go outside, so I'll be right back for that. dark. To display. Turning into the background. Dark. To display. Okay, slightly better. Turning. Exactly what I was looking for, but it'll do for now. Dark. Let's get rid of Paragon for now. To display. And since we had a few questions about coding, I'm turning, grab that. Exactly what I was looking for, but it'll do for now. Dark. Slightly bigger. Let's get rid of Paragon for now. To display. And since we had a few questions about coding, also I'm turning, grab that. Exactly what I was looking for, but yeah, it'll do. Oh, cool! I'm so happy I was able to get that work. Dark. Yeah, there are some things that get with really Paragon now, and you could say I want to create certain. And since we had advantages of coding for grab that. Exactly what I was looking for, but yeah, it'll do. Oh, cool! I'm so happy I was able to get that work. But the shields are a very defining factor. Yeah, there are some. I already have quite a few really Paragon classes, and you could say I want to create certain. And since we had advantages. They should help. Thanks for the heads up. I do have quite a few ideas for icons and items that would work with that. For example, the bands from Path of Radiance I'm planning on bringing back, not with the growth rate adjustments because I don't know how to code that, but I do want to get quite a few things with those ready as well. I want to create it so that those give stat bonuses. I want to give stat bonus to, like, if it's an archer band, that it gives a bonus whenever it's held by an archer, etc. So that even if you want to give the item to someone, the actual class it represents might get a small extra boost out of that. A few ideas. You won't be able to see them, however, if we're going for some money altering skills, no, Byron skills. Honestly, I was interested in, oh, it depends on what do I actually have available. I can start on one prologue, but what are my units? I hope the dolphin audio isn't all that loud, by the way. It should be reasonable. We have... Okay, we have multiple units at our disposal. So this is currently my testing ground, and there are a few more skills that I want to take a look at whenever units drop one another off and when they pick someone up with rescuing. So we have, for example, Leth would be a great recipient of that skill, because I can move Nolan out of the way and nothing would happen. Enemies don't attack, I have full control over whether I want them to move or if I don't. I even have a very special thing, I can even make them playable. Then my own units would be enemies. Let's see, what kind of skills do we actually have here? We had lunge, oh, that was what I was working on last time. So it actually created a few glitches, because lunge currently doesn't, or it may now do, but I don't think it does. It currently, if I recall correctly, still applies even after combat. However, because the Savage Shiv from me and the enemy both force a combat outside of regular combat, the lunge skill activates multiple times. Yeah, so that's one. You can see the switch really quickly, and you'll see that Soth is in the corner now, and after this it probably will get a little bit messy. Yeah, that's another switch. And another switch. So that's not supposed to happen. I've locked Soth in here. So there's still a little bit of work to be done. But I was actually looking at if a unit would be able to drop someone off. Let's say, for example, a unit with Savior picks someone up, and they also have a skill that while they are carrying someone, they actually heal them. Would be a really cool skill for Mist, for example. And we could go and look at Shelter, because I have Shelter already. Don't mind the Guild Force in the bottom. So we'll need a good name for this. It's a skill that's meant to heal a unit and then drop them off automatically at the start of turn. What would be a good name for that? Something with safety. Maybe... something with aid. Yeah, safe travels would work. We'll go for left in this case. And I do have to quickly check whether or not... So you'll see Paragon open in a moment, because I have to check if left is the PID. I know that Liar is Liar like this, with an I. Yeah, Leth is Reth. So this has to be an R. And it works from every single turn. Then we want no units to be next to one another. So that would be 2 is no. So I'll quickly explain what Shelter is currently doing. Every single turn at the end of player phase, I believe, or at the start of enemy phase. Yeah, at the start of enemy phase, this it looks for, in this case, Leth, but it was Fiona. It sets V2 to 1. It looks, V1 is force get first. This means it looks for units within the allied list. 0 is allies, 1 is enemies, 2 is other, and 3 is yellow units, I believe. And this creates a small loop that it looks for every single player unit. Then it gets the X and Y coordinates of players, and in this case it's not an enemy because it's actually the unit you want to pick up. It currently sets V7 to 2, and then it checks if the unit is adjacent. So if this is actually the case, then set it to 1. If this is the case, set it to 1. It just looks if there's anyone. If there's anyone next to me, then it is 1. And then if V7 is 1, then, and the unit has, in this case, Fiona has Shelter, and someone is next to them, it goes through here, it looks at unit max HP and HP. If the unit is less than half their max HP, and if V7 is 1, and if the current unit's HP is smaller than half their max HP, so if they're below 50%, it rotates units, they move weight, and then unit A, in this case Fiona, rescues any unit that is in danger. So we actually want to create the opposite of this. So here, B7 is the opposite in what sense? Well, this is the skill Shelter. Shelter looks for a unit. Yes, it automatically drops the ally. So Shelter looks for a unit and picks them up, and this would be a skill that would, if they're above a certain HP threshold, it would automatically drop them off. And then that would be in a certain pattern. I can't really place it in a way that you could say like, oh, I want it north, south, or west, because it happens automatically. So that would be in the skill description, like, hey, if a unit is somewhere, then they get dropped there automatically. First it's north, then east, south, west, or something like that. That way players can still take placement into account. But most of this actually also works because we just have to flip it around. We can keep this the same, it just looks for left and it looks for any other unit. And if they're the same army. And here we have V7 is 2. And then we just need it to be that if there is no one, we would have to test the skill and say that if they have this skill safe travels and V7 is 2, that would mean that there are no units adjacent, because you don't want to have a unit being dropped on a tile where someone is already. And then we can go and look at a drop-off point. And for that we need the all functions list, which is pretty much just every single function in the game in every single chapter that I've compiled into one document. And here, unit drop-off is what we're looking for, which probably gets used in 3-3. But it also gets used, where are we? PID boy, this is... Where is this? Oh, it's probably just the... This looks like the debug menu. Lian is being dropped, so that could mean that it's to Prologue. Yeah, that looks like Prologue. Z-Heart left. I have no idea where this is happening. Probably 3-6. .13. I would expect Lian to happen somewhere with Raphael. So this might not be the one that we're looking for. So we'll go to 312. We will look for Lian. .201. 201, 201. Lots of 201. So you won't be able to see much of what's happening because it's currently being blocked by Dolphin. Pinion, this is 3-1, 3-12. Here we go. Back to barn. So this is where she is being shown, but it doesn't seem to have any drop-off or anti-rescuing. Probably just has a unit fade in, but that's not what we want. We want to have a unit that actually that was rescued is actually being dropped off. So I don't think this is what we need. Maybe it is the drop-off command. I guess the best way to figure that out is by going to E5 is so it's the one doing the dropping. That would be correct, and then 8. Hello, cat. To the big screen. Yeah, he's barely visible. My mic or my camera was set to be a little bit lighter than this. However, I had just the sunset glare coming in. I might be able to go to a different screen because my camera is. Here, I could turn the gain on a little bit. I think we should be able to at least see what happens if the unit drop-off command happens. I'm going to see if this works. If the unit has this wouldn't work. Probably need to figure this out a little bit more before actually kind of getting lost in thoughts a little bit here. I'm trying to formulate a sentence while thinking about how this would work, but I know that if it's currently implemented, then Leth would not drop anyone because it's currently not working with the max HP. This is... I think this is probably a good thing to take some notes, and I'll get to that in a later stream. Besides, it's also 17:26. Yeah, it might actually be a good idea for me to start working on some food. And then I'll make some dinner. I'll probably get back to that in a different stream, today or tomorrow, or not today, the day after tomorrow or tomorrow. I'll take a look at when I'm available, but I hope at least that the Paragon part was a little bit more interactive and that you were able to learn something about that. And I hope to get some scripting ready, but I'll probably have to take some notes on what I want to talk about and what I want to implement. Maybe set up a few examples for why certain things would work and why certain things wouldn't work beforehand, and then go through that process as I'm streaming. Like talk about what would work, what wouldn't work, because now I'm looking at it and it's something I haven't worked with before, so I don't know how it would interact. So yeah, for now, I'll probably leave it at that. And I would like to thank you very much for coming to the streams today. And I'll probably see you guys soon. I'm sorry for cutting it short there, but I didn't even realize it was getting that late and I do have to fix dinner. So yeah, that's my bad. Should have planned that a little bit differently maybe. In any case, thank you very much for watching, and for now, Sal out.